Hello, listeners, and welcome to Elisha's Eerie History.
Elisha's Eerie History.
Welcome. Today I have Hazel,
Hello.
Josue, and Candace.
Hi.
These people are friends of my cousin-in-law, but now you all are my friends.
Yes.
And yeah, they're here today. You're the first group we've had on the pod. Multiple group we've had on the pod.
Okay.
So that's exciting. A lot more personalities involved.
Definitely.
Usually I try to do like the episode catered to like kind of match either a little bit of someone's identity or something they love, or like they have a story. Like the last episode, the girl had a witch experience. The episode before, Kayleen loves hiking, we went on a hike. I was trying to think of like something y'all were interested in. And I could have just done like a classic murder mystery thing, but I don't know why. I really wanted to do pirates.
I love pirates.
Yeah.
I do love pirates.
I love it.
So today we're going to be talking about pirates in Virginia. For well over a century, Virginia was a haven for pirates and an object of plunder. The first recorded instance of piracy in Virginia occurred in 1610. And throughout the 17th century, there were scattered instances of piracy. For instance, there was a war with the Dutch going on during the colonization of America. And during this time, the seas were so full of pirates that a governor, William Berkeley, said that it was almost impossible for any ship to get home safely. By 1678, Algerian pirates specifically plundered so many ships off the Virginia coast that local merchants and plantations demanded security services for them. All of this is to say that today we are going to be talking about Blackbeard the Pirate. So Blackbeard traveled all over the world. Obviously, he's a pirate, but he has a lot of connection to Virginia.
Okay.
So,
I don't know if you know this. I'm from North Carolina.
okay.
And Blackbeard is one of our fame points.
Yeah.
Like they talk about Blackbeard all the time.
Yeah.
With the North Carolina beaches.
Okay,
too.
we're gonna.
That's why
so,
I love it.
So you're gonna know a lot.
Yeah.
Perfect. Wow, this is perfect.
So good.
Okay. Historical context, where are we in history in the 16th, 17th century, you might be asking. What is going on? America is getting colonized. We have the colony of Virginia, we have the colony of North Carolina, but we're all under British rule still. So,
Is it during the 13 colonies? Or?
around that time,
Okay.
yes. It's right before, all of that becomes a thing, and then, because 13 colonies happen, and then it's like, and then it's like America, revolution. So we're fully kicked out the indigenous people to some extent. And so at this time, the Dutch, French, English that were colonizing the Caribbean, we're colonizing North America. So we are in the thick of it. Africans are already coming on ships from Africa to America. That's where we are in history. Perfect. The location we're going to talk about today is Blackbeard's Point in Virginia. Blackbeard's Point is in Hampton, Virginia. We always do this as a way to ease in to the place so you also get the setting. Blackbeard's Point is a historical landmark that has 4.3 stars.
That's high.
4.3.
And we're going to read 3 reviews. First, we have Laura. Laura says, this is a historic history display that commemorates the punishment of Blackbeard. The marina is pleasant and the Surfrider restaurant next door. I go there to spin Pokemon Go stops associated with the display.
Nice.
Jordan Kelly says they give it 4 out of 5 stars, and they say, I give it 4 stars because I'm a huge Blackbeard fan. However, there's nothing more than a sign briefly explaining Blackbeard and what happened in this area. As for scenery, there's a marina, yacht club, restaurant, and a ton of privately owned boats. Unless you're bored in the area, probably not a place you want to visit.
Wow.
My God.
So 4 out of 5.
Negative.
The last review is Kurt, and he says, there isn't much here but a plaque. Most Blackbeard aficionados know the information presented. Not a very important place to stop. The marina is nice, but it feels like you're trespassing when you're there.
Ooh, interesting.
So yeah.
There's a mix of...
Yeah, there's basically like a plaque in the middle of like, there's like a yacht club and there's a restaurant and there's like a plaque, and that's the only Blackbeard location in Virginia. The reason this is there is because supposedly his head was staked there.
Ooh,
He did get beheaded when he was murdered.
I've heard that.
And the governor of Virginia at the time put his head on a stake to like scare people.
Yeah.
So that's around the area where his head was staked.
Okay.
To get to the haunted
Ooh.
part of this. So Blackbeard is said to haunt his ship in the bottom of the ocean. His ship is crashed off the coast of North Carolina. They actually think his last shift he crashed intentionally because he was like over pirating at this point. He also haunts, supposedly his victims haunt this stone house at the in Hampton, Virginia, in like that area. Because supposedly he stored his jewels and his gold there and some silver plates he stole from Virginia plantations. However, it has been debunked and Blackbeard probably never visited that stone house. But those are the hauntings lore. Okay, but we're history based here. We don't really get into the haunting unless we're able to go to the location and, you know, call upon the spirits. But not today.
We
Okay.
do that little
Wicca game, you know?
Yeah.
We're
Make it interesting.
Yeah.
Now I kind of want to do it and like
We want to go.
and see it myself.
Let's talk about who Blackbeard was. Blackbeard's original name was Edward Teach. His last name kind of varies based on reports. Back then, everything was in cursive, so people's names kind of like morphed based on how they wrote it down or whatever. So some people say it's like Tredge, but usually people say his name's Edward Teach. It might not even be his real name, that's just the name that was on records. So Edward Teach or Blackbeard is from Bristol, England, which is the second largest city after London at the time. Nothing is known about his early career, but he started as a privateer. A privateer is someone who's hired by the government to be a pirate, essentially. You're hired by the government to go attack someone else's ship and steal their belongings or take their people or something, but it's not illegal because you're getting paid by someone.
I didn't.
Wow.
So that's how he started.
Then they got mad.
Yeah, so that's how he got his start. He was from a middle class family. It actually was like, it took a lot of skill and you had to have a decent amount of money to even have the skills to have a boat, get on a boat, and learn how to do it. So he was actually upper middle class to middle class. Ooh. And so you're like, how did this man become a pirate? So when he was privateering, he worked under a captain, Benjamin Hornigold, who is also a privateer. Benjamin Hornigold is also from England. Basically, they were in the Caribbean being pirates. They got their money, they got paid one day, and I guess they didn't have like the next job in line, and they were like, well, I can just keep pirating, like it's not a problem. So
what did they expect?
Yeah. So they continued pirating, and he worked under Benjamin Hornigold for most of his pirating days. Hornigold taught Blackbeard the ropes of being a pirate, and while they were pirating together, they came across two boats in Virginia that were headed to Martinique, which is a French island. And this boat in Virginia, on the way to Martinique, had over 400 slaves on it. It was a French commerce ship that had just come from Africa. When they came across the ship, they attacked it, obviously. They got two ships full of slaves, and his captain, Hornigold, was like set for life, basically, economically. So that he retired, and that's when Blackbeard became the main captain. Blackbeard was like a first cadet first. So that's how he kind of got his start and became a captain. Overall, though, Blackbeard was only a captain for 5 years, which is not that long.
He was doing whatever he had to do, I guess.
Yeah. So the reason he's so famous is facial hair was not common in this era for Europeans.
You said facial hair?
Yeah, they didn't have facial hair. It wasn't very common. And he had black facial hair, and he put fuses or cannabis or things that could burn but not necessarily hurt him in his beard.
What? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he would threaten to jump into the gunpowder stores of the ship.
A little suicide.
Yeah, like they would pull up to a ship and he'd have like flames coming out of his face.
What?
And he'd be
Can you
like,
imagine seeing that?
Yeah.
Like, pulling up.
and he'd be like, if y'all don't give up right now and give me your money, give me your jewels, I'm gonna jump into this.
Okay, here you go.
Blow you up.
No, it
Here
sounds
you
like he was having a crisis, honestly.
Yeah.
Like a little crisis.
Yeah. So that's why he is so famous. Because of his image, people compared him to the devil. Because that was obviously really scary back then. They were super religious and stuff. So
Oh, we have a picture of him.
Yes.
yeah, I do have pictures of him. We can pull them up.
Like a draw of him.
I know. Yeah, I want to see him with the like cannabis sticking out or something.
Honestly, yeah. But it's interesting. He was only captain for like
5 years. I know he scared everybody for 5 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Imagine if he had more time.
This is a picture of
Oh
him
my god.
with smoke coming out of his face.
That's gonna be my new screensaver.
Wait, that is
I love that.
So cool.
He looks like Jack Sparrow with the swagger.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that specific
Yeah,
style. Yeah,
Wait, no, he is in the movies of the what is it? The Caribbean?
Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah.
Yeah, he is in the movie.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I remember him.
They wore like nice British outfits out there for
Mhm.
real. They weren't.
Like they didn't look like pirates.
I mean, other than the hat,
Yeah.
it was like.
It's the hat and the sword, but other than that, they're like Navy captains or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, because that's like basically what
Yeah.
they were. Private Navy captains though.
But I guess Blackbeard had the peculiar facial hair with the
Yeah, the little turned up
turns.
was
Yeah.
That's so cool.
How was his boss, Mr. Hornigold, able to like take this slave ship and suddenly give up pirating and not be allowed? Right. How was that allowed?
like, where did he go?
Yeah. So the King of England made a proclamation at the time because pirating was so bad, as we said, that like colonists weren't getting supplies they needed to survive. Tobacco was getting stolen, and that was kind of the last straw for Virginians. Was they didn't mind so much them intercepting like the French ships that didn't bother them, but when like common goods like tobacco were intercepted and they couldn't make
We
money.
need the smoke.
Yeah, they were like super mad. So the King of England said, "Hey, all pirates, if you turn yourself in and give up, turn yourself in, we'll pardon you, and you can, you'll be free to like do whatever, keep your splendor. You just gotta leave us alone. And on top of that, if you get anyone on my list of pirates that are the enemy, I'll give you £100, up to £100 per person." So like if you're
That
the
sounds kind of nice.
yeah, so if you like
Good deal.
if you turned in like your best friend who was like a pirate that was really important, you could get £100. But if you turned in like your own shipmate, he might be only like £50. But either way, £100 back then is equivalent to $18,500 today.
I'd be in
Oh,
awe.
yeah.
I would
That was a
be.
good deal.
I'd be in awe.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And
Not
with
you
this
guys.
economy,
I wouldn't do it to you guys, but anybody else that I knew, they would be.
with
they'd be
love,
on.
but
Yeah, so that's why his boss kind of turned himself in, because he was like, "I'm set for life. I stole all this stuff. I'm set for life."
I'd retire and be fine.
Yeah. Blackbeard's most famous ship was the Queen Anne's Revenge. Queen Anne was
That's a cool name.
Queen Anne was the queen at the time, and obviously Queen Anne's Revenge is like
British
anti-Queen.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, anti-British.
Monarchy.
Yeah. So November 17th, 1717, Blackbeard and his flotilla intercepted the French slaver La Concorde in the open ocean across from the Windward Islands. This ship, La Concorde, had nearly 250 tons on it and was as big as most Royal Navy ships in the area from America. It had enough gun ports to accommodate 40 cannons, which is rather large. However, the ship was in no condition to resist pirates, 16 of the French crewmen had died on the 8-month journey from France and Africa.
8 months.
And most of the survivors had scurvy and bloody flux, which I don't know what that is, but we know scurvy is like you don't have enough vitamin C. Most of La Concorde's cannons had been left in France to make room for the 516 slaves below deck. And unable to run the smaller, faster ship that Blackbeard had, the captain was forced to surrender without a fight because basically they knew that like if they got attacked, like 500 plus people were gonna die.
Yeah.
So that's not cool, obviously.
Yeah.
So Blackbeard takes their ship and they give all of the enslaved people an option. You can either join me and be a pirate, or we're gonna like drop you off at the closest islands in America.
Oh my god.
I'm suing up.
and you're gonna stay here. And then otherwise they hold all of the ship people like basically like for ransom.
So Blackbeard was for the slaves.
Yeah, so this is what I was thinking when I was reading this. He was kind of a diversity, equity, and inclusion person.
He was for the people.
Yeah, because he didn't like discriminate. If you were on his side, it didn't matter what you looked like.
Yay.
So,
Slay.
70 people who were going to be slaves, I guess they're not quite slaves yet, were like, fine, we want to join you.
Yeah.
So 70 slaves joined them, and then over 400 got dropped on the island. I'm sure probably more offered help, but he couldn't obviously afford to have 400 people.
I was about to say, all of them didn't want to join him? Okay, that makes sense.
Do we know the island that the people, like around what? Like were they close to the northern or?
They were in North America. I don't remember what island it was. Let's see. It's near
Oh,
St.
so
Martinique,
Saint
St. Lucia, Barbados.
Okay.
So they dropped them off in the Windward Islands area.
Okay.
These probably didn't all have the same names at this time. Martinique definitely had its name at the time.
They're saints.
But I think, and when I read like the old stuff about it, it just said the West Indies in general. So I don't know that they had a map and knew exactly where they dropped people off, but they were just like,
we'll find it.
yeah, here you are, survive, good luck. 70 people are like, I'm on your side, Blackbeard.
Yes.
Blackbeard said he knew that black pirates could count on to be totally committed to fight to the end because they do the other option. 455 slaves that were still alive when they intercepted the French ship La Concorde went to a ferry back to Martinique.
Martinique.
So that's where they went, Martinique. Of the 70 slaves that he brought onto his team, 5 of them became his inner circle that were with him until the day he died. So he really treated these people like his right-hand man. The reason he's connected to Virginia is because he had 2 instances we're going to get into. The first report is he intercepted a British tobacco ship, like I mentioned earlier, and he took it over, and since the Americans were shipping out the tobacco, they were really upset they didn't get money for this, so that affected the economy. The other instance, though, is Blackbeard apparently went on lands at one point in Virginia. So this is Hornigold, his boss, is gone. He's just intercepted La Concorde in St. Martinique. So after this, it was kind of dead in the Caribbean for a while because they were running out of resources, running out of money. So it becomes more profitable to stay in North America and start intercepting these tobacco ships or these supply ships. And so they're in Virginia, and he basically hangs out in the Hampton Road area and is intercepting supplies for a number of years. He had some type of settlement up there that they never really found. And supposedly he has treasure buried somewhere off multiple places in America, but somewhere off of an island in North Carolina, and somewhere on the coast of Virginia.
No, the North Carolina one.
Yeah.
That's Outer Banks. That's
that's the Outer Banks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where he has his treasure buried. In Virginia, he starts breaking land, or getting on lands and raiding people's houses. Specifically, he raids 2 plantation owners. He goes into the plantation owner's house houses and he steals things like silver china. He steals like beautiful like vases. He steals gold, jewels, whatever they had. And that was obviously very scary for Virginians. And so this kind of puts into the Virginia people, like, we don't want Blackbeard around. This is, like, dangerous for us. Because it's no longer just in the water. It's, like, coming onto shore.
Okay.
All of this is going on. And there's actually no report Blackbeard killed anybody.
Ooh.
He apparently just scared people so much. He just, like, took what he wanted. But he never...
He sounds even better than I thought.
Yeah, he never killed anybody. So... this is how Virginia gets really tied in, is near the end of his career. Alexander Spotswood is the governor of Virginia in 1717, 1718, where this pardon is happening. Blackbeard, he's been in Virginia, he's been up and down North Carolina and Virginia for a little while, raiding people's houses, and he decides to turn himself in and hang out in Ocracoke Island.
Ocracoke?
Ocracoke, is that how you say it?
Ocracoke Island.
Okay. He stays, and he retires to...
Ocracoke Island.
Ocracoke?
Ocracoke.
Ocracoke. Okay.
I will not even try it.
So Blackbeard hangs out in Ocracoke Island in North Carolina, and the governor of Virginia is like, that is too fucking close to us. Because basically he, like, at the height of his empire, he has 8 ships. Over his career, he took 15 ships from people. But at the height, he has 8. And so he's, like, stealing from Virginia. He gets another jackpot along the way of, like, a ship with, like, a bunch of stuff. Nice. So he's, like, set. And so he decides, I'm going to follow Horn of Gold and I'm also going to retire. And so the governor of Virginia is, like, pissed because this is super dangerous for him. The Virginia people are upset, obviously.
That's why North Carolina likes him. He was just chilling. He didn't really do much.
Yeah. And so the governor of Virginia pays Lieutenant Robert Maynard of North Carolina to go and kill Blackbeard. So on November 22nd, Blackbeard was cornered on Ocracoke Inlet in North Carolina. Previous to this, all his ships with all his mates, he basically would, like, island by island, like, sinking his ship with all his crew on it. Like, he's like, ship number 3, I'm going to sink you at this island and strand the crew here.
So they knew, like, the crew knew where they were going to be.
They didn't know. He was basically like, I'm retiring, but, like, all of the spoils is mine. Because if he...
Okay, never mind.
if he kept his crew alive, they would get a part of the spoil, because they could also get pardoned if they turned themselves in. So instead of doing that, as he's deciding he's going to retire, he's just marooning people on islands and crashing ships onto islands.
Never mind, he's selfish.
So,
I take it back.
So they get stuck. So at this point, he only has 1 ship left, and he had crashed it onto Ocracoke Islands. At this point, he crashed onto Ocracoke Islands. He's chilling. They're using the parts of the ship to, like, try to make him a house. He's got, like, those... he's got his main crew. Some of them were those slaves we talked about earlier, former slaves. And so the governor of North Carolina pays Lieutenant Maynard to be a hitman. And on November 22nd, 1718, he was cornered in North Carolina on the island. Maynard's ship came up to their ship, which was, like, stuck on the beach. And they were doing, like, cannon fires at each other, and then they ended up doing hand-to-hand combat. Blackbeard was killed receiving 5 pistol shots and 20 saber cuts, which is like a sword.
He was strong.
Yeah.
Okay.
The notorious Blackbeard's head was brought to Virginia and displayed at Sunset Creek, which is where this location we talked about at the beginning. Yeah. And his head was put on a stick and basically sat there until it disintegrated.
It's kind of like Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Also, his head, before they made it to Virginia, was just chilling on, like, the top of the Lieutenant Maynard's ship as well.
Oh my god.
You might be asking, what happened to his crew?
Yeah.
So, this is also how Virginia is tied in. So, because Alexander Spotswood, the governor of Virginia, paid the hitman or whatever, they were tried in Virginia instead of North Carolina, because that's where the crime was committed, so to speak. His crew was taken back to Virginia. they put his crew on trial, and he had a couple of different people on his crew. The first man was named Samuel Odell. Samuel Odell was released because they could not actually prove he was part of Blackbeard's crew.
Okay.
Odell was a man from North Carolina that was on Ocracoke Island the night before the battle. I guess he just like was on the island and got like mixed in it. And the only fighting that occurred on Samuel Odell's behalf was in self-defense. The other man that was on the boat when they got Blackbeard was Israel Hands, and he was the sailing master of Blackbeard. That man was eventually pardoned.
Okay.
And then on March 12th, 1719, the rest of his crew was all found guilty without leniency. The exact date of the hanging of the rest of his crew is not known, but it was probably shortly after March 12th, which was their trial.
Wait. They killed them all?
They killed the rest of the crew.
No.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, it's like Pirates of the Caribbean. That's
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the convicted pirates were accompanied along Jamestown Road by representatives of the Virginia Church, the Virginia Legislature, and the Virginia Militia, and there was a large crowd of spectators. Before their hanging, the men were given a chance to give their last words and have a prayer with the Virginia minister. And then they were hung every half mile on the coast of Virginia.
Oh my God.
And left there for other people to see and for pirates to be scared.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
That's a message well sent.
Yeah.
Right? They wanted to send a message and just shoot.
They were like, okay, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, so that's Blackbeard's story. Do y'all have any questions lingering? Are there any holes in the story I didn't quite answer?
I feel bad for the crew. I mean, they didn't get the
I didn't know
spoils,
I
they
didn't know that much about Blackbeard's crew, but I thought he was better with them.
I thought they got away, honestly. I thought it was going to be like, yeah.
They should have been able to.
They live happily ever after.
They didn't,
Yeah.
they didn't get all the spoils, like you said. I thought, I mean, just survive.
They didn't
at
get no
least.
money, nothing.
Yeah, supposedly like all his remaining treasure, some of it has never been found.
That's why it's in Outer Banks.
We should go for a look on it.
They say there's treasure buried in Barbados, one in Outer Banks, and then one in Virginia. But yeah, none of his crew got to enjoy the splendors.
I hope they at least knew freedom, you know, like.
I feel like they did. I mean,
what?
If they were working on his ship, I feel like they might have been chill for a little bit. But I'm like, shoot, like,
But that
he just buried his treasure. He could have at least given it to somebody
Yeah.
beforehand.
Yeah. Well, and part of his treasure he sunk on his ships, like.
Just such a waste.
Yeah, because he was like, he was a messy dude.
So nobody's found his ships before his treasure.
So there is a ship, the Queen Anne's Revenge is off of North Carolina.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
And they've excavated it and they found like gold coins and stuff. But like the massive amounts of treasure, like supposedly in Virginia there's an iron chest, and where you can find it is it's off of the New York River and Mulberry Island. Mulberry Island is currently where a Virginia naval base is, but supposedly.
So we can't look for it.
Well, you could go. You could try. You can get around it because it's on the other side of the island. But supposedly.
The U.S. already colonized it.
Yeah.
But supposedly, if you go to the island, there's a small cove, and if you find an area with 5 trees, it is said that the chest is buried in the area with 5 trees.
I kind of want to look at. We should go treasure hunting.
No,
like,
yeah.
this
This
is
cut those
so
trees off.
close. I want to be rich.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
That's the scoop on Blackbeard.
Well, I think the other former slaves that were dropped off at the islands. This is the good story, I think, out of this.
So, guys, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being no ease, not scary, 10 being like scariest thing ever, how many E's do you rate Blackbeard?
I give Blackbeard 2 E's just because the story's not like too scary, you know, not superstitious really for anything, but he is just really more interesting than anything.
Okay. Awesome. Josue?
Well, 3 E's. Just like you said, it's not superstitious story, but it actually includes real people in it. And then him being killed at the end, and then, well, him in the beginning terrorizing communities, like you said, stealing and all of that. And with him getting killed and having his head beheaded and having his head for display for all the, yeah, that's scary.
That is scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will give her 3 E's or 2, sort of. It wasn't too scary, at least, like the story, but looking at like back in time, you know, like how they basically put the people's head, like the crew stakes, like
On the
road.
post?
Yeah, so
That's
to
true.
send a message, I think that was pretty scary. Pretty much for us, but I mean
But for them.
people, yeah, for the pirates. I don't know. Overall, it was just pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Agreed. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having
Of
us.
course,
and
yes,
for
thanks
giving
for
us
having
this
us.
moment.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah. Hopefully you guys can be aware. There's gonna be plenty, but hopefully you
Yes,
guys are more.
continue the series.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
And hopefully, like, if someone lets me go to like an actual location, I could do like a big event or something.
Ooh,
you
that'd
know.
be amazing.
We
join.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you. I'm so glad y'all could be here.
Absolutely.
I give Blackbeard probably 2 or 3 E's as well. Although if I saw a pirate
I would lose my
IRL,
shit.
that's scary. I
Cut
know.
my hand just so I can have a history.
Yeah.
You know.
Thank you for watching. We hope you tune in next time to Elisha's Eerie History. Okay.
That's so fun.
Okay.
I